The text messages between you two were disgusting to hear. And to think that she had you saved in her phone as bae for life. Neziah deserves so much more. And while I mentioned other people that failed her, Jarvis Butts, you are the monster in this whole picture.
Hey y'all, it's Destiny, and I don't know if you've been following this Neziah Harris case, but it is so sad. This poor baby has been missing for over a year now. It's been exposed that she was pregnant, and the man that got her pregnant was this man, Jarvis Butts. She was 13, he's a grown man. And even though he is a monster, her whole family failed her. There were so many people seeing what was going on and nobody stepped in to stop it. So I just wanted to give you guys the latest news on what's going on with the case. It looks like it is going to trial.
Neziah deserves so much more. And while I mentioned other people that failed her, Jarvis Butts, you are the monster in this whole picture. She did deserve love from her parents and everyone who was in her life. She was ignored, she was neglected, and you took complete advantage of that. She wanted someone to love her, and she will never know what that feels like. Your children deserve more. As much as defense counsel has raised issues on count one, all that has done is raise the question of fact for the trier of fact, which means that this will be for a jury or a judge to hear in Third Circuit. I pray for the healing of all the victims and the young girls and possibly boys who have come into contact with you. As a community, we should look at this case as a prime example of how much work we have to do when it comes to protecting our children and especially our Black girls. I pray for closure and healing for all those who have been traumatized by you. And for you, Jarvis Butts, I wish you a speedy trial and that justice be delivered.
For people wondering, they have not found Neziah, they don't know where she is. Jarvis Butts will not tell anybody what he did with her. There are some people still thinking that she may be alive, but it's looking more and more like she probably is not. He probably unalived her and she is somewhere, but he doesn't want to say where she is.
Defendant Jarvis Butts was accused of killing his girlfriend's 13-year-old niece after prosecutors say he learned that she was pregnant with his child. And of course, we're going to continue to update you on any new developments coming out of that case.
Yes, he was dating her aunt. Yes, he did have children, I believe about 5. So many people saw this baby with this man constantly and nobody said anything.
Jarvis Butts, the Detroit man charged with murder of 13-year-old Neziah Harris, he appeared in court for the first time since his case was bounded over for trial. CBS News Detroit's Jack Springate sat on today's proceedings to tell us everything that happened in court today.
Well, today's hearing was more procedural than informative, but it did set a timetable for some of the next steps in this trial. The biggest development arguably happened outside the courthouse, and that was learning how much attention Neziah's story's been getting since last week's preliminary hearing. Butts entered a not guilty plea before the court scheduled a calendar conference set for March 7th at 9 a.m. That's when deadlines to file motions, motion hearing dates, and potential trial dates will be set. One of Neziah's adult cousins and staunchest advocates said her story has taken off ever since the preliminary hearing.
There are a few celebrities that have reached out. It's reached some very top tier platforms. So I'm hoping that it moves in the right direction that it needs to go on.
Roxy says one of these celebrities was Detroit's very own Skilla Baby, who not only said he'd cover the cost to throw a community gathering to honor Neziah's life, but he's also changed his profile picture to this photo of her.
I'm very thankful that Skilla Baby decided to, step up to the plate and take care of everything. And it's just awesome how the community is coming together all behind Neziah.
So this is Neziah's cousin, and she does say a lot of things that I think a lot of people are thinking. Everyone in this situation needs to take accountability.
Roxy told me her reaction to much of the online chatter that sided with Judge Aaliyah Sabri's observation that those caring for Neziah when she was abused didn't do enough to protect her.
Accountability matters. It's some things that you can be able to forgive your family members for, and this is just one of those things that I just personally can't. What's right is right and what's wrong is wrong, and everyone involved in it needs to take accountability.
Roxy says she would have never let this happen if she were still living in Detroit 1 year ago. Again, Butts will be back in court on March 7th for that calendar conference.
Now, there were text messages that came out between Isaiah and Jarvis, and it was just disgusting. But another woman came out and told her story of when she was 12 years old, and listen to what she had to say.
When I was 12 years old, I wrote a love letter to a grown man who was my camp counselor at this little summer program I was a part of. I confessed my undying love and told him that I wanted to be his wife and have his babies. And you know what he did? He, along with a woman counselor, pulled me to the side and told me that, sweetheart, that is not appropriate. But they took it a step further. They then started asking me questions because they wanted to see, had I been exposed to something that was inappropriate, or had I had something happen to me? Because what is making you, me, a 12-year-old, think that she's in love with a grown man? Now, out of that therapy session, they learned that, one, I was being bullied at school. I didn't really seem to have a lot of friends. I was a very weird, quirky black girl, I was in my own head a lot. My parents, who worked very, very hard, but weren't home a lot, didn't really give me a lot of the attention that I think I needed, or the social, emotional kind of support, right? I was adopted. My parents were a lot older, so their generation, children are seen and not heard. I didn't really have too much of a voice. But this man, who I thought I was in love with, was so nice to me. He used to compliment me all the time. He used to tell me how smart I am. I don't know what love is. I don't even know what sex is. Like, what? I'm just going based on what I see in movies. Not realizing that as a child, this could have put me in a very weird predicament. But it didn't. Because the adults in the situation were adults in the situation. And I wish that Naziah Harris could have had at least one or two adults in her situation that could peep, that could see, that could intervene. Because what happened after I had this little session, both of those adults called my parents. They took it even further. My parents were like, oh my gosh, I'm appalled. Don't worry, we're gonna discipline her. And both of these camp counselors literally said, don't do that. That's the worst thing you can do. We don't want to bully her down, or not bully, but just kind of take it a peg down. We don't want to knock down her confidence, and she feels self-conscious now because she feels exposed. Like, no, they told my parents what they learned and was like, your daughter is having issues because she doesn't have any self-esteem. She's lacking like self-confidence. We've been trying to build that up, but it's being twisted in her mind, and that's a conversation that you guys really need to have. But I think that y'all need to spend more time with her. I think that y'all need to address some of these underlying issues so it doesn't become a problem with her when she does become a teenager. You know what I mean? When she does start becoming a woman, And my parents, as old school as they are, actually did listen to them, and we had a conversation. And I really did appreciate that, even though it was weird at the time because I'm 12. I don't want my parents to know that, like, I'm in love with this man, or at least I thought I was. I'm embarrassed or whatever. But, like, years later, I think I was talking to my mom about it, and she was just like, yeah, I just didn't want you to be fast. And I was like, there was no fast. There's no... I had a 2-parent household. Naziah Harris didn't. Even though my parents were super busy, they tried their best. I'm gonna take a guess and say that grandma and auntie just didn't. They really didn't. All the stories I'm hearing, they didn't. I had a man who was willing to tell me, sweetheart, that's not appropriate. And any man who thinks it is wrong. Naziah Harris did not have that. And I'm sorry, y'all. I'm kind of frustrated because watching all of this play out, and we're still watching it unfold right before our eyes. It's just like, it's so triggering. It's so triggering because there's so many situations that I can count on my hand right now with little girls I personally know or know of. to where I'm like, you need to stop. I tell the adults in the situation, you need to stop before something happens to this little girl that you're supposed to protect. And it's frustrating. It's frustrating. When we can, as a community, get together and be honest about the stuff that we are exposing our kids to, if we can be honest about men not going for those advances, women talking to your daughters and not trying to label them as fast, not trying to be jealous of them, not trying to be like, oh, you're trying to be grown. She don't even know what that is. That's it. That's all. I just wanted to share my story. I'm getting frustrated. It's already 5 minutes, but justice for Naziah Harris. She deserves so much better. And this story has been blown up on TikTok because it really is a lot of our stories. It could have been a lot of our stories. And she deserved so much more.
Prayers to everybody in this situation, the family members, the friends. This is why it's so important to not allow every single person, every single man that you're meeting, you're dating around your children. Especially if the man already has a record. Thank y'all so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I will definitely see you in the next one.